Lucille Ball, The Untold Story. For many years, Lucille Ball brought more laughter to the world than anyone else. But toward the end of her life, the laughter stopped, giving way to quiet, sadness, and one revealing moment that showed what she had been keeping inside. When she gave what would be her last interview, she wasn't the energetic redhead people remembered. She was a woman carrying the burden of everything she'd lived through: success, broken hearts, and the sense that the world she helped create had moved on without her. What she shared that day brought tears to everyone present and millions of viewers. By 1989, Lucille Ball's name was still famous, but her daily life didn't reflect that fame anymore. The woman who once had 44 million people watching her every Monday night was now living alone and quietly. Her large Beverly Hills home, which used to be filled with friends and happiness, had become empty and cold. Most of her old friends had passed away. Her two children, Lucy and Desi Jr., lived far from her and didn't visit often. Although her second husband, Gary Morton, remained with her, he would talk about the sadness that filled their home, the kind that money and fame couldn't fix. Lucille had been loved by all of America and represented happiness, but privately, she was troubled by her past. When Life with Lucy ended in 1986, it broke her heart. She had returned from retirement because she wanted to show everyone she still had her talent. But the show was canceled after just 8 episodes. For the first time ever, audiences didn't find her funny. Critics said it was a sad ending. People close to her said Lucy took it hard, that she would stay awake reading the bad reviews, questioning whether her magic was really gone. It wasn't just about a show that failed. It showed something bigger. That time had passed and Hollywood had moved on from her former queen. The comedians who learned from her were now the ones on television, but hardly any of them called to see how she was doing. The woman who once opened doors for female entertainers now sat by herself, watching old episodes of I Love Lucy in her living room. Sometimes she would laugh quietly, then wipe away a tear. Her health was also getting worse. Years of smoking had hurt her lungs, and by 1988, she started having heart problems. Still, she wouldn't admit she was struggling. "I'm okay," she would tell her nurse, even when walking to the kitchen was difficult. When friends told her to rest, she would say, "I don't know how to slow down." That determination had made her career possible, but now it was all she had remaining.
Lucille Desiree Ball was born on August 6, 1911, in Jamestown, New York, a small-town girl who would eventually dominate Hollywood. But her early years were far from happy. When she was only 3 years old, tragedy hit. Her father, Henry Ball, who worked as a telephone lineman, became sick with typhoid fever. In his last weeks, he was climbing telephone poles in the snow, trying to repair tangled wires during a storm. His condition worsened quickly. On February 28, 1915, he died at just 27 years old. Lucille never forgot that day. She remembered her mother weeping, a picture dropping from the wall, and a small bird that got trapped in their house. That image of the bird frightened her for her entire life. From that point on, she developed a serious fear of birds. Not only real ones, but even pictures or designs that looked like them. Friends would later mention that she refused to stay in hotel rooms with bird-patterned wallpaper. For Lucy, that memory wasn't just superstition. It was grief she could never let go of. Her mother, Dee Dee, was young and struggling, pregnant with Lucille's younger brother, Fred. To get by, she sent Lucille to live with other family members while she tried to rebuild. Lucy grew up feeling out of place, like a visitor in her own family. When her mother married again to a man named Ed Peterson, things didn't improve. His parents were harsh and distant, even forbidding mirrors in the house so the children wouldn't become proud. Lucy would later explain that those years taught her how to perform, how to act like everything was fine when it wasn't. Then another tragedy occurred that changed everything. When Lucy was 12, her stepfather created a shooting practice area in their backyard. He was being careful, but one day there was an accident. A young boy from the neighborhood was shot by mistake. The bullet hit his spine and left him unable to walk. The boy's family took them to court and won. The Balls lost everything: their house, their belongings, even their insurance. Lucy's grandfather, filled with shame, never worked again. She said later, "One accident ruined us." By the time Lucille Ball reached her late 20s, she had already experienced more failure than success. Her acting dream started in New York, but it was crushed early when her instructors at the John Murray Anderson School for the Dramatic Arts told her she had no ability. One teacher even sent her home, advising her mother not to waste money on classes. Years later, Lucy would recall that embarrassment as the moment that made her stronger. "All I learned there," she once said, "was how to be scared." But she didn't give up. She returned to New York in 1928, took modeling work to survive, and eventually headed west to Hollywood. During the 1930s, she became known around studios as the Queen of the B-movies. She appeared in more than 75 films, usually playing a chorus girl, a supporting role, or the woman who never got the main part. Still, she kept learning. Every set taught her about timing, body language, and control. The camera responded well to her, even when the industry overlooked her. Then, in 1940, her life transformed completely. While filming Too Many Girls, she met a young Cuban musician named Desi Arnaz. He was self-assured, attractive, and unpredictable. They met on set, danced together during breaks, and within months, they eloped in Connecticut. Everyone predicted it wouldn't work out, and in many respects, they were correct. Desi drank a lot, came home late, and wasn't faithful. Lucy, who had spent her entire life wanting security, found herself in turmoil again. But she loved him completely and thought that if they worked side by side, maybe they could help each other. That hope created I Love Lucy. In 1951, when CBS wanted to turn Lucy's radio show, My Favorite Husband, into a television series, she demanded that Desi play her husband on screen. The network pushed back, saying audiences wouldn't accept a mixed couple. Lucy wouldn't compromise. To prove them wrong, she and Desi put together a live touring show. The connection between them was obvious, and CBS eventually agreed. The show became a massive hit. Every Monday night, the whole country stopped to watch Lucy and Ricky Ricardo. At its highest point, I Love Lucy attracted 44 million viewers, more people than watched presidential speeches. Lucy's comic talent, her readiness to embarrass herself for laughs, and her excellent timing made her the symbol of television comedy. But behind the humor, her marriage was crumbling. Desi's cheating continued, and Lucy's heart broke a bit more with each rumor she tried to ignore. When the cameras were rolling, they were America's ideal couple. When filming stopped, she cried by herself. "It wasn't easy being married to Desi Arnaz," she once said. "It was always the same: alcohol and other women." Yet she stayed, hoping that love could outlast fame. For a while it did. But when I Love Lucy ended in 1957, the problems in their marriage were too serious to hide. The world had fallen for Lucy and Ricky, but the real Lucille Ball was quietly breaking down.
In the early 1950s, America was filled with fear, the kind that could ruin reputations in an instant. It was the time of Senator Joseph McCarthy and the Hollywood blacklist, when even the smallest connection to communism could destroy a career. For Lucille Ball, whose show was the most popular on television, that fear suddenly became her reality in 1953. It started with a rumor. Gossip columnist Walter Winchell suggested on his radio program that a famous red-haired actress had once been a communist. He didn't name her, but everyone understood who he meant. The next morning, newspapers everywhere printed headlines in red ink: Lucille Ball named red. In just one day, America's most loved comedian had become a national suspect. The charge came from a decision Lucy had made almost 20 years before. Back in 1936, she had registered to vote as a Communist Party member, not because of political beliefs, but out of love for her grandfather, a man with strong socialist views. "He wanted me to do it to make him happy," she later explained, "so I did." She never went to meetings, never talked about politics, and quickly forgot about it.
But now, during the Cold War panic, that forgotten choice threatened everything she had worked for. For Lucy, the timing was terrible. I Love Lucy was in the middle of filming a new season, and sponsors like Philip Morris were scared. Millions of dollars were on the line. If audiences rejected her, the company she and Desi had built, Desilu Studios, could fall apart overnight. Lucille decided to confront it directly. She willingly met with investigators from the House Un-American Activities Committee, known for its harsh questioning of actors, writers, and directors. Calmly, she told them everything, that she had registered only to please her grandfather, that she never voted as a communist, and that she had nothing to hide. "I have never been a communist," she stated. "I have never been involved in anything against this country in my life." While the public waited for her downfall, Desi took charge. He invited reporters to their home and spoke directly to the audience before they recorded a new I Love Lucy episode. Standing in the center of the stage, he said, "The only thing red about Lucy is her hair, and even that's not real." Then, surprisingly, he announced that he had spoken with FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, who confirmed that Lucille Ball was cleared of all suspicion. The crowd broke into applause. After I Love Lucy ended in 1957, Lucille Ball was the most powerful woman in television. She and Desi owned Desilu Productions, the studio behind future hits like Star Trek and Mission Impossible. But the success that had once kept their marriage together now pulled it apart. Their arguments were loud, mean, and never-ending. Lucille once said, "We weren't fighting for love anymore, we were fighting just to survive." On March 3, 1960, just one day after Desi's birthday and the filming of their last episode together, she filed for a divorce. 2 months later, their 20-year marriage was officially finished. Their separation shocked the world. To millions of fans, they were still Lucy and Ricky, the couple that made America believe in happiness. But behind the scenes, Lucille had been living through years of betrayal, drinking, and emotional exhaustion. Desi later admitted, "I caused it, my drinking, my temper. I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me." Despite everything, they remained connected by love and business. Lucy bought out his shares of Desilu for $2.5 million, becoming the first woman to lead a major Hollywood studio. But personal happiness never came. In 1961, Lucille married comedian Gary Morton, a kind and patient man 13 years younger than her. They stayed married until her death, but it was never the same love she had for Desi. She once told a friend, "Gary gave me stability, but Desi gave me passion." Even as she moved forward, she never really let go of her first husband. Her children, Lucy and Desi Jr., grew up under the heavy weight of fame. Lucy pursued acting, while Desi Jr. struggled with addiction and tabloid scandals. In the early 1970s, his relationship with actress Patty Duke caused chaos in the press. When Duke became pregnant, rumors claimed that Desi Jr. was the father. Lucille was heartbroken. She saw it as a public embarrassment that damaged her family's reputation. Though a DNA test years later proved otherwise, the harm had already been done. Lucy pulled back even more, focusing on work and trying to protect the family's image. Then came another heartbreak. Vivian Waynes, her longtime co-star and closest friend, was diagnosed with cancer. Lucy stayed in contact until the very end. When Vivian passed away in 1979, Lucille was devastated. "Part of me died with her," she said quietly to Carol Burnett, who had become one of her few remaining close friends.
In November 1986, Lucille Ball received the phone call she had been dreading for months. Desi Arnaz, the man who had once been her partner in love, work, and history, was dying. Lung cancer had taken over, and he didn't have much time left. Despite decades apart, Lucy never stopped caring for him. She called frequently, sent letters, and in those final days flew to Del Mar to see him one last time. Their daughter Lucy later remembered how gentle those visits were, the laughter, the tears, the quiet moments of forgiveness. On November 30, their wedding anniversary, Lucy called him again. Lucy held the phone to her father's ear. "Say what you want to say," she told her mother. All Lucy could manage were 3 words, the same 3 that had connected them from the start. "I love you." She said it over and over. Desi, weak but aware, whispered back, "I love you too, honey. Good luck with your show." 2 days later, on December 2nd, 1986, Desi Arnaz died at age 69. For Lucy, it felt like the last light in her life had gone out. Just 5 days after his death, Lucille attended the Kennedy Center Honors in Washington, D.C. She had planned to skip it, but her family persuaded her to go. Halfway through the ceremony, actor Robert Stack walked onto the stage holding a letter. It was from Desi. He had written it just days before he died, knowing she would be honored that week. Stack began to read. "The New York Times asked me to divide the credit for I Love Lucy between the writers, the directors, and the cast. I told them, give Lucy 90% of the credit and divide the other 10% among the rest of us. Lucy was the show. Viv, Fred, and I were just props. Very good props, but props nevertheless. P.S. I Love Lucy was never just a title." As the letter was read, the camera showed Lucy. Her hands shook, her eyes filled with tears. Gary Morton, her second husband, held her hand tightly while President Ronald Reagan and First Lady Nancy Reagan watched. For the first time in public, Lucille Ball, the woman who made millions laugh, broke down and cried. Everyone in the theater did the same. It was the most perfect tribute possible. Desi's last words to Lucy, a love letter disguised as a goodbye. A few years later, in 1989, Lucy gave her final television interview. Her face was thinner, her voice quieter, but her humor was still there. When asked what she wanted to be remembered for, she paused, then said softly, "For making people happy." The room became silent. She smiled slightly and added, "That's all I ever wanted." It was a simple answer, but it held the weight of an entire lifetime. Months later, she had a heart attack, went through surgery, and briefly seemed to get better. But on April 26, 1989, her heart stopped. She was 77.
Lucille Ball's story shows us that even the brightest stars have darkness behind their light. She spent her entire life making millions laugh, but behind the scenes, she carried pain that most people never saw. The woman who broke barriers, built an empire, and changed television forever was also someone who knew loss, heartbreak, and loneliness. Today, decades after her passing, I Love Lucy still plays on screens around the world. New generations discover her talent, her timing, and that unforgettable spirit. But now we also know the price she paid for that laughter, the struggle she endured, the love she lost, and the moments when she wondered if it was all worth it. There's a touching detail that many people don't know. In her final years, Lucy kept a small photo of Desi on her nightstand, not from their glamorous days, but from when they were young and unknown, dancing together before fame changed everything. Her housekeeper once asked why she chose that particular picture. Lucy smiled and said, "Because that's when we were just 2 people in love, before the world got in the way." That simple moment reveals so much. Despite everything, the divorce, the pain, the years apart, she never stopped treasuring what they had. The woman who gave everything to make others happy never quite found lasting happiness herself, but she found meaning. She found purpose. And in those quiet moments watching her old shows, maybe she found peace knowing that her gift would outlive her struggles. What makes Lucille Ball's legacy so powerful isn't just a comedy, it's the humanity behind it. She showed us that you can be strong and broken at the same time, that success doesn't erase sadness, that even when the world is laughing with you, you can still feel alone. Her final wish was simple, to be remembered for making people happy. And she did. But perhaps we should also remember her for her courage, her determination, and the sacrifices she made to bring joy to others, even when she had so little of it herself. The lonely queen of comedy may have left us, but her impact remains. Every woman who leads in Hollywood, every comedian who takes risks, every performer who refuses to give up,
They all walk in the path that Lucy carved. She didn't just entertain us. She taught us that laughter could be an art form, that women could run studios, and that vulnerability, when channeled through talent, becomes timeless. So here's the question. Do you think the world ever gave Lucille Ball the recognition she truly deserved? Did we appreciate her enough while she was here? Or did we only see the laughter and miss the woman behind it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us your favorite Lucy moment or a memory of watching I Love Lucy with your family. Let's keep her story alive by talking about it. And if this story touched you the way it touched us, we'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss more untold Hollywood stories like this one. The real stories behind the legends we thought we knew. Thanks for watching. And remember, behind every smile, there's a story worth hearing.